Of all Stanley Kubrick's films, Barry Lyndon is arguably the most divisive. Some critics and filmmakers see it as a masterpiece, but the consensus among a great many people is that the film is boring. To some extent, this stigma draws from the fact that this is a 3-hour costume drama, but the film is full of battle scenes and the plot sees a lot of variation, so I think there's more to it. Specifically, I think Barry himself is the cause of said division. Simply put, Barry is an unlikable little shit, completely unworthy of an epic. A lot of things happen to Barry, but the character lacks an agency, making audiences hostile towards the character and the film built around him. Paradoxically, this is also why the film is so compelling. By building an epic around someone unworthy, Kubrick effectively subverts the rules of the genre to make a statement on the individual's insignificance in the world. The key to everything is Barry himself, but what makes him so unlikable? On paper, he doesn't seem too bad. I mean, the dude is a con man and a cheat who can be a real bastard at times. But just in the realm of Kubrick protagonists, he seems pretty mild. He isn't a psychopath with a predilection for the old ultra-violence, after all, and he also isn't trying to murder his family with a fucking axe either. So why does Barry produce a contempt in audiences that Alex DeLarge or Jack Torrance don't? Well, for all their despicable actions, there are things about Alex and Jack which are admirable. Alex does terrible things, but he's also well-spoken and has a deep appreciation and knowledge for fine arts. Jack, meanwhile, has an inner drive which motivates him and propels the plot forward, keeping the audience engaged. And of course, both characters are played by charismatic actors clearly having fun in their work. And that joy is a little infectious, even if the characters are morally reprehensible. None of these positive traits can be applied to Barry. Barry does not possess any special talents or skills. Consider Barry's introduction, where he is ordered around by his cousin and trembles nervously in her presence. This may seem a minor flirtation, but it establishes Barry as weak-willed, and sets a precedent where other characters make decisions for him.
The boy must go into hiding just for a short time anyway.
Ask him about his wife, the washerwoman who baits him.
The plan of the duel was all arranged, in order to get you out of the way.
You have not a penny of your own. I shall not rest until I see you, Lord Lyndon.
His eventual fortune is not one he fights for through hard work and ingenuity, but one he marries into, and subsequently squanders. So Barry is hated then, not just for his selfishness and moments of cruelty, but for generally being a loser unworthy of his own movie. This creates a frustrating contradiction, as not only is Barry at the front and center of a film, but a historical epic of the most lavish production value and meticulous attention to detail. Typically, epics are centered around people of great importance. Whether good or bad, these are people who made a monumental difference and are themselves fascinating figures. To place a passionless bore who hardly accomplished anything at the center of an epic is to spit in the face of genre conventions, and this certainly explains many audiences' disconnect with the film. Of course, this contradiction is precisely the point. Rather than use an epic to make the individual seem big, Kubrick instead uses the vastness and scope which comes with the genre to make the individual seem small, a powerless figure in an enormous world. Barry may have had multiple feuds, fought in many battles, and at one point held a vast fortune, but he never really accomplishes anything. By the film's end, Barry has been physically maimed and usurped by his stepson, his wife has left him, his fortune is gone, and he is forced out of England. And so, Barry returns to Ireland with his mother as a failure. By applying such grand filmmaking to a story about someone so insignificant, Kubrick undercuts the very nature of the epic, suggesting that individuals don't actually make any substantial difference. And then there's the final title card. This emphasizes that none of the choices made by any of these characters had real consequences in the long run, and history has rendered them all equal. In short, none of these people matter. For as critical as the film is of Barry, however, Kubrick does present the character's humanity and moments of kindness. This is most clear in Barry's relationship with his young son.
Barry had his faults, but no man could say of him that he was not a good and tender father.
We see the deep love that Barry had for the boy, and we feel the profound loss Barry feels with his son's passing. We also see his compassion for mentor figures like Captain Grogan and Chevalier de Balabare. Yes, Barry is self-centered, but he also risks his life to save a fellow soldier, protects Balabare, and crucially shows mercy to a stepson who has served as Barry's adversary from the start. This complexity of character not only makes Barry feel more like a real person, but it also adds a tragic element to the film, as that complexity is ultimately irrelevant. The morality of Barry Lyndon can be debated, as he exhibited both kindness and cruelty, but the answer doesn't really matter. Whether or not Barry was a good man does not change his own insignificance in the events depicted. The very notion of analyzing the character is something of a futile act, which is rather fitting for a narrative about individual insignificance. It's no surprise then that Barry Lyndon is a film disliked by so many. Not only does the film say something deeply cynical and nihilistic about humanity's place in the world, but Kubrick's method of expression is built on a largely unlikable character who does nothing of significance. So, whether you think the film is boring or brilliant, the source of that feeling might well be the same. It all comes down to Barry Lyndon himself, the unworthy protagonist.